Today, I had the pleasure of talking with Ruth Shapiro of CAPS and congratulating on the 10th anniversary of their work. And we touched on a number of their research reports that have been done, and their Doing Good Index, which is a very important. Ruth, it was quite a fun conversation, wasn't it?
Terrific. Mostly because you agreed with everything I said.
Well, occasionally we might disagree, but one of the themes that really came out strongly was, and the full interview explores this in much more detail, is the role of government and how fundamentally different it is in Asia compared to the US. And I think you used a great example of one of Reagan's comments, which you might repeat, to kind of contrast the different perspectives on how government works. So maybe just talk a little bit about that and some of the other key themes.
Well, I think that in the United States, which I know well, the idea that government would be your solution provider is not part of our mindset. And the term that I quoted was Ronald Reagan saying the worst words you could hear was, "I'm from the government and I'm here to help." And I don't necessarily. I think government is really important, and I don't necessarily agree, but I think that across the political spectrum in the United States, government is not your go-to solution provider, whereas in Asia it is. And so when you talk about philanthropy, that is money coming from wealthy business people, because in Asia, 85% of all companies are family dominated, and much of the philanthropic capital is routed through the company. So they want to work in collaboration with government. They want to increase that connectivity and the feeling of we're here to help you, you help us. The kind of the back and forth. And so I think that philanthropy is meant to pilot new ideas, to complement government, to support government, but not in lieu necessarily of government, except as the last mile, and that is in agreement with government.
And so that was fascinating discussion and so fundamental. And we also talked about how government is also stepping up to try and promote philanthropy in recent years, and particularly in Singapore and more recently in Hong Kong, and some of those initiatives and the work you've done around how do you build a philanthropic ecosystem and the role of government. So any further thoughts on our conversation around that subject?
Well, it is true that Hong Kong and Singapore are promoting philanthropy as a big part of their government kind of platform, but the biggest one is China. So philanthropy is actually listed as the third disbursement in the current 5-year plan. And so the government in China sees philanthropy as a really important mechanism to allow wealthy people to engage in solving problems. And so I think that those governments that realize that philanthropy is a useful mechanism and a set of tools benefit from that. And we can see it happening throughout the region.
And then finally, we talked about, the role of Hong Kong, or my personal view that it could be a very important source for learning, because it's got such a history of philanthropy for the Chinese philanthropists that are now coming to the table with this huge wealth transfer. And that cross-fertilization of information around philanthropy, how to do it, becomes quite an exciting moment for China learning from the work of Hong Kong as Hong Kong steps up. And I think we both thought that was an interesting dynamic.
I think it's a really interesting dynamic, but if I had to think about one rule of thumb, there's this idea Asia has all this money. And gee, I run a great nonprofit, and if only I could get Asian money to support helping, sick children, or, feral dogs, or whatever it is that I'm trying to save, it would be terrific. And I think it's really important for people to understand what motivates those Asian philanthropists. What is going to help them? What is the solution to their problem? They are not necessarily the solution to your problem. You need to understand what they need and fine-tune your request accordingly.
Such an important message. So, Ruth, on that, the full interview is the full 20 minutes. I think we go into a lot of these things in detail, and the importance of an Asia perspective on Asia philanthropy and all the work that's been done over hundreds of years, not just in recent years. So, Ruth, thank you for the conversation. And for those interested, please do look at the full version of the interview on our Global 20 series. Thank you very much, Ruth.
Thank you so much, Ben. And I want to just say your work is really important, even beyond interviewing me. And I'm very delighted that Global Philanthropic is doing the work that it's doing around the world.
Thank you, Ruth. That's very kind. Likewise. Okay. And congratulations on your 10th.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ruth.